All right, it is now 6:02 p.m. on 8 December 2025, and I call this meeting of the Planning Commission to order. May I please have a roll call?
David Dahl.
Here.
Margo Mooring.
Here.
Nicholas Andrews.
Here.
Debbie Cole. Justin Henderson.
Here.
Dean Haddock.
Here.
Matthew Filer.
Here. Are there any changes or corrections to the minutes dated 10 November 2025 noted by any member? If not, may I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion to approve. Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed, please say nay. Motion to approve the minutes from 10 November 2025 is approved. To the staff, is there any correspondence for any item on the agenda?
No correspondence.
Okay, do we have any old business?
No old business.
Okay, moving on to new business. So for the public, the Planning Commission meetings are generally quasi-judicial in nature. All decisions of the Commission will be based on competent, substantial evidence, including testimony provided in this meeting. Any person who is not an applicant or agent and that wishes to speak will need to fill out a speaker card, which are located on the side table by the door, and turn them into the city clerk. Each member of the public will be given 3 minutes to speak on each item. Please refrain from speaking from the audience, and applause or cheering is not allowed. And please silence your cell phones. Can you please read the application by title?
To the staff, can we please have application for PC number 21-25?
Through the chair, this is PC 2125. It is a conditional use request for a property located at 725 South 3rd Avenue. It is a conditional use application to allow for the construction of an accessory dwelling unit, or an ADU, located in the residential multifamily RM1 zoning district, pursuant to section 34-614 D18 of the Jacksonville Beach Land Development Code. The subject property is located in the medium density residential zoning district future land use district in the RM1 zoning district. The property is currently occupied by a single family home, which was built in 1953 per the property appraiser's website. The current single family home is roughly just over 1,000 square feet of heated and cooled space, and or 1,100 square feet just about, including an open porch. The subject property is a legal lot of record created prior to the adoption of the comprehensive plan, as it existed at least since 1953 when the home was constructed. The lot is roughly 6,250 square feet with a width of 50 feet and a depth of roughly 125 feet. During the passage of the new Land Development Code in March of this year, the ability to add accessory dwelling units was added for properties located in the RM1 zoning district, provided the property was currently a single family home, and the ADU would be one additional unit on the property that can support at least 2 multifamily units. As noted, the RM1 standards for multifamily, a minimum of 5,000 square feet of lot area is required to have 2 units, and the same conditions would apply for the construction of an ADU on a single family lot. Accessory dwelling unit means an attached accessory building or a portion thereof that is used as an ancillary residential unit and is located on the same lot as the principal single-family dwelling. It has a separate kitchen, bathroom, and sleeping area, and is intended for use by a separate family of occupants. The addition of the ADU requires compliance with additional standards in the LDC for certain conditional uses. These are minimum conditions that are listed below. The applicant has committed to meeting all these conditions, and the proposed site plan demonstrates compliance with these requirements. Additionally, staff will ensure that these conditions, along with any others applied by the Planning Commission, are met during the time of permitting as part of the permit review process. Surrounding uses include, to the east and adjacent, a 2-unit multifamily structure. To the west and adjacent is a vacant lot. To the north, across the existing alley, is a single-family home. And to the south, across 3rd Avenue, is a small church. Staff has reviewed the criteria for a conditional use for an ADU and finds that the following. It does meet and is consistent with the visions and intent of the comprehensive plan, specifically future land use 1.4, which basically identifies and incentivizes preserving residential neighborhood character, as well as strategy 1.4.1, which states that on single-family lots, single-family residential homes with a multifamily zoning designation, the city shall basically adopt provisions for ADUs because we had intended to do this when we did the land development code. We found that the subject property is located in the RM1 district and notes that ADUs as a conditional use are allowed. Additionally, the area has a surrounding mix of single-family, multifamily, and institutional uses. The applicant has agreed to all the additional conditions that are required. And again, these conditions were intended to address things like massing scale and subordination to reduce impacts on other surrounding uses. The proposed ADU will not have any negative impact on the surrounding uses. The new addition of units is substantially similar to the existing two-unit multifamily structure that is immediately to the east and will be designed in such a way as to be similar in size and height to any allowable accessory structure not used as a dwelling, so it should have no greater impact than the detached accessory structure and is likely to have less impact than a new multifamily structure which are permitted to be built here. The proposed use is not likely to impact property values negatively, though staff is not necessarily qualified to make formal appraisals. The proposed additional unit would be consistent with the surrounding area and uses and would not be more intense or generate more traffic than any other multifamily use in the surrounding area. The property is fully served by city utilities and can handle the expansion of the unit. The applicant has an existing driveway, and per the LDC, residential properties can have stacked parking, so their intent is to add a third space off the existing driveway. The proposed site plan, the ADU will comply with all the dimensional standards and additional conditions for ADUs in the RM1 zoning district. Again, they've agreed to these additional conditions that are listed. And those conditions are listed below. I'm not going to go through all of them, but in essence, it deals with location, overall size, and use of the existing property, the minimum and maximum sizes of the ADU, their ability to provide one extra parking space, compatibility in design, minimal or maximum height of 15 feet. It has to meet building code, obviously. And the existing single family has to be owner authorized, and they sign a affidavit to that effect. And everything will be off of the single electrical meter and water meter for the property. So basically, they'll be tied together through the utilities. So based on the information in the application, as outlined in the staff memo, we're recommending approval of PC 2125 for one accessory dwelling unit with the required additional conditions specified for ADUs in the staff memo. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you. I appreciate it. As a reminder, each member of the public will be given 3 minutes to speak when we open the public hearing. Does any commission member have any ex parte communication to disclose? All right, hearing none. Would the applicant please come forward to be sworn in and give any presentation? And a reminder to the commission members, please refrain from interrupting the presentation and hold questions to the end.
You're just going to tap the little red button on the microphone. Please raise your right hand and state your name and address.
Jeremy Lafferty, 5043 Monroe Forest Drive,
Do you,
Jacksonville.
do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
You have time to tell us whatever you want to about the application here.
Yeah, so Christian covered it pretty well. The actual build is going to go in behind the home. Additional parking space will be added. It'll be an accessory dwelling unit, 500 square feet, one bed, one bath.
Okay, do any commission members have any questions for the applicant?
Thank you.
Yep.
In that image right there in the top right-hand corner of the property, is that a driveway?
No, the driveway is actually, you see the vehicle in the bottom right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's actually 2 spots currently behind the sidewalk. We're going to extend the driveway up 17 feet for an additional spot to make the 3rd parking spot.
What is that back there?
The shed?
Oh, okay.
Yep.
The lot to the, how looking at this?
To the west?
The west? So just an empty lot?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Correct.
Are there any further questions?
All right, thank you.
I will now open the public hearing. Do we have any speaker cards?
No speaker cards.
Is there anyone in the audience who's not filled out a speaker card that wishes to speak? And if so, please fill out a speaker card before you leave. Okay. I'll now close the public hearing and bring that back to the board for discussion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Is there any further discussion? May I have a roll call vote on the motion?
David Dahl,
Yes.
Margot Moring,
Yes.
Justin Henderson,
Yes.
Dean Haddock,
Yes.
Nicholas Andrews.
Yes. Motion carries. Congratulations. May we have the planning department report? Oh, we got one more? Did I miss one? Sorry.
Can we please have the report for PC number 22-25?
Through the chair, yes. So PC 225 is an amendment to the Land Development Code. It's a text amendment. It will create Chapter 34.377, which is requests for accommodation. Basically, to summarize, there's been a push through the legislature starting in 2015, the state legislature. And in 2025, Senate Bill 954 was passed. It basically pertains to what are called certified recovery residences. These are sober living facilities. They are not treatment facilities. They are residential living facilities for people that are recovering and transitioning from addiction treatment. In essence, this bill establishes a requirement that cities and counties pass legislation before January of 26, basically ensuring that their land development code meets all the requirements that would not prohibit these to go in residential areas. It's part of the ADA accommodation. Basically, people who suffer from addiction are considered during their recovery to be disabled and are entitled to living in residential areas, much like any kind of group home that we have. They're treated as single or just residential structures. Our code actually doesn't prohibit these. It's pretty much in line with state law. However, there is a provision in the code to allow for, if there does arise a situation where there's a conflict, a process for a separate hearing, which is reasonable accommodation. Housing and Urban Development has a similar requirement that Jacksonville had to implement a number of years ago, but basically it establishes a process. If there is some kind of conflict that would say this can't go here for these reasons, and there's a feeling that they need to be in that location, they can request this process. It's really sort of an extra step to ensure that we're in compliance, but as part of the implementation of the statute, we are required to do this. So we basically set it up as a new chapter in the LDC. But again, our code really doesn't cause a conflict as it is, so this is really an extra bit of insurance going forward.
All right, thank you. Obviously, we don't have anybody from the public here, so I'm not going to open a public hearing. Do we, I guess we'll just move. Is there a motion for the purposes of discussion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
And just as a reminder, this is be a recommendation to council.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And so,
So-
to clarify, this is a recommendation to city council from us, correct?
So can we, theoretically, can we say no to this?
I mean, you can recommend no to it.
Recommend no to it?
Yeah, that's within your power.
Okay.
I don't know that the city is obligated to do this under
Why?
state statute
Why?
because the state passed a requirement that we have to.
Why?
Because I assume that there were cities that were not meeting this requirement, and much like Jacksonville with their housing requirements, they ended up in a very expensive lawsuit with the Housing and Urban Development on the federal level. And part of that settlement, they reached compliance, which included a similar provision for, in their case, it was transitional housing for homeless. But we haven't had a conflict, but it's a statewide bill, so we're complying with state statute.
Okay,
Yeah.
so go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, because I mean, it's, from a local level, it's an interesting thing because what happens ultimately what ends up happening is companies are running businesses out of houses in neighborhoods. And they come in and now they're basically greenlit from the state, I guess, or the federal level. They can just do that.
I mean, to be fair, they have been.
Right. Well, yeah,
It's
it
one.
doesn't mean it's not a problem.
Well, it's not a problem that we can solve at this level, unfortunately.
Yeah, noted. I want to clarify something here, and again, I apologize. I read through this quickly because I don't think I figured it was part of this. That said, my understanding of the reasonable accommodation piece here is that this is a. Can we just go over what is allowed without a request for reasonable accommodation?
So,
What I just read was that the city manager determines whether they're going to hear one of these requests for reasonable accommodation. Is that correct? Because
Yes.
reasonable accommodation in the world I come from, federal service, very, very specific stuff. So I'm trying to get to what would trigger a request for reasonable accommodation and what's allowed without it.
So, I'm trying to think of a good example. Under our code, you can have a recovery facility that meets the state requirements for a recovery facility. They're licensed, they go through the whole process. Let's say they wanted to locate somewhere, and for whatever reason, it's one of 6 houses that are on a septic tank or something along those lines. There's a non zoning related issue, but a land development code issue that may complicate that or prohibit that because of that. They could then request reasonable accommodation to reconsider that strict interpretation of the code to say, if we connect to sewer, would that solve the problem? Or we don't think we're going to generate enough waste to cause a problem with the septic tank. Here's our data. It basically goes beyond the limited language in the code to consider extra things that may not be part of that conversation typically.
So to be clear, then they couldn't request to do this recovery facility in a place where it was not allowed by the LDC.
Right, but our LDC basically treats them as residential structures. So anywhere where they can go in as a residence and they meet the state requirements, they are treated like a residence. So we don't prohibit them because, in essence, we can. But we took that into consideration when we redrafted the code to make sure we weren't sideways of the requirement.
Out of curiosity, why don't we treat them as businesses?
Because
they're
under
100%
ADA
a business. Whether it's ADA or not, it's a business.
There are categories and scales of things like group homes. Basically, if they're under a certain number of residents, they fall under basically a single family home that has got 4 or 6 unrelated people that live there. If it gets to a larger facility, then they can trigger some things. But this is, again, following what the state determines to be a residential treatment facility. So not a hospital, not a, place where they're receiving medical care. This is strictly a place where they live.
Right, but it's the business.
And they would register the business portion.
It'd be no different than running, Christian's Recovery Center out of a house, and you have 6 people staying there, and they're paying you $4,000 a month. And I know, and going through there, and you're making a business out of it, and you're running it out of your house, and they're not having to go through the same steps. They're just allowing businesses to run out of any house at that level.
I mean, being blunt, it's really no different than a short-term vacation rental or even a home business now, which has got pretty large leeway under the state law, which is one of the things we had to change in our code as well. The state is pro-small business in residential areas and has passed state legislation that requires us to comply with that. They've taken away the ability of the city to say no.
So then, in the staff's interpretation of this, it's allowed. There's no restrictions on it at all in the residential zoning district?
In so much as if it meets the requirements of the state, no, we don't disallow them.
So
We have always allowed them.
Okay. Then the reasonable accommodation, that's the point I'm struggling with. Like, they're allowed. Why do we need a reasonable accommodation request?
Because the state statute says we need to have one, but also it provides a way to solve a problem that may arise that we can't anticipate. Although the zoning says you can do it, there may be other things in the code that say you have to have these things that they can't provide. And since we have to allow them, they have to have the opportunity to say we can address those other issues.
Are we still allowed that? So, okay, understood. The state says that we have to have to be clear on this, that we have to have a vehicle in order to resolve these things. Are we still allowed to say no?
Yes, I mean, if there's a legitimate utility-related issue or something along those lines, yes. I mean, there could be legitimate reasons why you don't want to put one of those there from a public safety standpoint, but they have to have the ability to ask for a second read of that at the city manager level.
When is council supposed to vote on this?
It is on December 15th.
Okay, so we're getting this on December 8th. They're voting it on the 15th, and it has to be in by the 1st.
Yes.
And that seem a little tight?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it seems a little tight, like to the board. My hesitation would be it's one more, if this goes to council and we can put a recommendation into it, it's just one more, looks like just one more thing in there that we're not really putting in there that somebody else is putting in there that's down the road is going to tie our hands into something we don't want to tie to. One more state issue that,
So, I think I see what you're saying, Justin. So the question is this, do we have to have this to be in compliance with state law?
Yes.
then why are we voting on it?
Because the way we
It's the
bring it into
process.
compliance is we
What,
amend the land
what
development
happens if we're not in compliance with state law?
code. I don't know, but I would imagine that there are some consequences. There usually are.
Maybe we could find out.
Separate line of questioning. When I was reading through the law versus what's in the proposal to council in the ordinance, our text seems to be, and if I misread this, forgive me, please, but our text seems to be mostly focused on ADA accommodations. Am I reading that correctly? Because the state law is broader about accommodations for recovery centers. This is very nuanced around ADA, was my read for it, but correct me if I'm wrong on that, please.
So the residents would be considered under ADA
Oh, got it.
for accommodation. That isn't to say that you have to be qualified through some ADA process to be in a recovery facility, or that recovery facility meets certain ADA requirements above and beyond what they normally have to do. This is basically saying because they're a protected class, we're offering this process for accommodation. The reasonable accommodation is not the same as ADA accommodation.
Yep.
I think that's
That's what I was
That's
trying to
the nuance
understand. Got it.
difference. Yeah, ADA accommodation is really a set of strict federal rules that you have to follow for
Yeah.
infrastructure and auditory assistance and things like that. This is a land development accommodation process, so it's separate, but it's caused by compliance with these HUD requirements and ADA requirements.
So I could interpret this as the law is. Let me actually rephrase that. The class of residents would be a protected class in this case. The accommodations are related to a protected class in general
Yes.
under the statute. Got it. Thank you. That's what I was trying to understand because I was thinking ADA compliance in terms of like buildings.
Yeah, there's
and
no way to
that's
get around having the ramp, but if we say you can't put it here from a legislative standpoint, then this is a way to ask for more consideration.
That was my read on it.
Mhm.
Is okay, and is that the nature of the code is primarily around issues like that, or is it around the more general? Because I know there are statutes around our requirement to make space for these facilities in our community,
Mhm.
and so is this ordinance around the the ramp type accommodations, or is it around the accommodation of these facilities in the community more broadly?
Right. So yeah, it's accommodating the facilities in as an existing use or a potential use. The accommodations for ADA rules as far as accessibility and things like that. There is a very strict policy as far as enforcement. There is a request for exemption that can happen under very certain circumstances, but typically that's either in the building code or through a state process. So this is use based, not physical accommodation.
Got it. Thank you.
All right, so my take on this is we're basically told we have to add a section into our code for it. I mean, that's the case, right? We have to adopt something that allows for a reasonable accommodation.
So
I know. I understand that. We're a recommendation to the council here.
We could recommend no. It
We-
wouldn't make a difference.
Correct. So, I guess let me just 1 minute here. I'm kind of a little bit with Justin on this. So why are we even making a recommendation? I understand there's the process and everything like that, but we've been told by statute that we have to add this vehicle into our land development code to allow for reasonable accommodation. I'm not a fan of the way that we're continually being told we have to add stuff. However, that said, if we have to add it, I'd rather add something that at least allows some level of process-driven look at something like this, as opposed to doing nothing or saying no, recommending no, because then we're just kind of pushing the problem to the right.
Maybe this will help. So if our previous land development code had some hiccups, we would have to amend the actual code as far as allowing these uses. So some cities are going through that process. What we have to do is add a provision. What you have before you is a proposed, designed by our, attorneys and staff. So I would say we have to do something. If you guys feel that the process that's established in this isn't adequate, or there's changes you'd like to make, you can make those recommendations that I think would be meaningful. But it's really how much you guys want to discuss the process, and if you think there are meaningful changes to be made.
And there probably are meaningful changes to be made. I would, for basically recommend against approval on our level and on a timeline. Hey, you got 2 weeks to figure this out. We've had this since Thursday, and how this was going to affect our land development code and how it's going to affect down the road. I don't know if we actually have reasonable time to figure that out before it's slammed down our throats on January 1st. And then we got to go through council. So also, and they're looking at it as well, I'm assuming. So then I'd be there. And then, just on the pure nature of here's some things you have to add that you're getting forced to add. Give some pushback where we can.
I can just add, it does seem a little surprising to me that council is not, that there isn't a legal representative of the city here. Understood kind of, I think I understand the circumstances, but the fact that they're not here is sort of saying to me, done deal, nothing to discuss, and we don't have any time to, get into it or even ask questions. I'm looking at the empty seat.
Yeah, I would say that there is one city attorney, and he is currently in the briefing with council, so I don't know. Those priorities are set for him by council. I'm sure if we had two, we would have one here. Miss Ireland was going to be here. She is unfortunately very ill and did not make it in. Actually, our CRA coordinator is sitting in for her at the briefing right now. So, but yeah, I don't know how to get David to be in two places at once. But again, there is a period between now and council, so the process is established there. You can certainly make recommendations in the form of, we think these changes should be considered, and the attorney will address them with counsel if he, has something to look at. So if you want to put things in there as recommended changes that, even if you don't have an answer to the question you think might be important, they'll have to be addressed at the council level by the attorney if they're going to consider those. So if you say, we think the application should be on green paper, that'll have to be discussed by council per your recommendation.
Well, is there a way for us to move the item forward I'm not sure we have enough information or enough time to develop conditions or new language or any of those things. But can we put in a suggestion that in the future more time be given?
Yeah, I mean, you guys are issuing a recommendation. I think, and I was not privy to the before this getting here, but my understanding is there was some question as to whether we needed to adopt anything at all because our code was currently compliant, and it was sort of caught that we still needed to do this portion of it. So I don't know that anybody really had planned on doing this quickly, because the question came up in early November, as I recall, from the city manager at a meeting with the state legislature. Basically, our legislative representatives was like, "Hey, do we need to do something with this?" And then we all kind of looked at it and went, "Oh, yeah, we do."
So we took a comprehensive look at the land development regs and at the plans, and we initially thought we didn't have to do anything specific.
That's my understanding. Yeah.
Okay, I get it.
So I do want to agree with the chair and vice chair that this does seem a little unfortunate that we have to sort of we're feeling a bit mandated in passing this on short notice. I do want to call out, I think it's important to be able to discuss the merits of the proposed what is this called again? Sorry, ordinance in front of me. And like Section F, for example, lists an appeal process. And we don't have an appeal process in the Planning Commission. And this appeal process seems to go straight to the special magistrate, which would undercut any kind of appeal power of this particular body. And the appeal process is something that's come up before this year in another application. And I just want to call that out as some of the substance of this ordinance that might be worth a little bit more consideration and debate on this particular dais. I don't know. I don't have much more to say than that, other than dragging this out into like a 4-hour meeting where we go through every line item in these 8 pages without an attorney present. But it does seem like if we vote in favor of this at this moment, that we're doing it without the robust debate that it might require, even though the spirit of the ordinance seems necessary and appropriate to me. There are some details in here that I wouldn't want us to sort of just gloss over and rush to approval. If we have to approve it, we have to approve it. But there are some nuances in here that might be worth discussing.
So, I think the whole commission is feeling a little bit uncomfortable with the timeline right now. So, but this has to be in place by 1 January, correct?
Per the statute, yes.
Okay. Is there a way we can, this is to the commission. Well, I have one condition I think we should put on it. I think that they need to remove the designee. I think it needs to be just the city manager that does this. Adding the designee portion of it, I think puts it at a level that is too low. It's overly broad. Let me put it that way. I think if you just say the city manager, then it's you pin the rose, if you will, on somebody who should do this. But the second part is that maybe we add a request for a revisit of this with a brief from the city attorney early next year, so we could potentially amend this going forward. Because I just don't think. Look, it's also the Christmas season, right? If this has to be adopted by statute by 1 January, we can recommend no. But if we recommend no and the council passes it, we're not actually sending a recommendation to the council. I think the recommendation to the council should be, okay, approve this, but we need to go back and actually do a deeper dive into this to consider the nuances that are present in this.
In terms of process here, do we need to introduce another motion on the floor?
Oh, I don't think there was. The motion was to approve for purposes of discussion, correct?
Right, which was seconded. So you could either take a vote on that motion and vote it down, make a motion to amend the motion and add whatever considerations you'd like, or vote it as proposed.
So, to the chair's point, there's an issue of designee. To my point, there's an issue of appeal. Do any of the other board members notice any nuances or have any questions with the document that may be useful to include in a motion to recommend with certain caveats?
I would make a motion to approve or to modify the motion to approve with additional conditions. My condition would be, or the recommendation would be to remove the designee part, and it has to be the city manager that does this. And then requesting, I don't know if this is a condition you can put on it because it's a request, requesting in the first quarter of 2026 a briefing from the city attorney and a deeper dive in this to see if there's any additional recommendations we make to change the LDC, because this would have to be adopted by the first. That's a long-winded way of saying my recommendation, or I would move to amend the motion to approve by removing the designee portion from the city manager, and then requesting a revisit of this in the first quarter of 2026.
Would the chair be open to including my appeal nuance in his motion?
We can explicitly call that out for a reason for review. I just don't think it's something we can.
Thank you. Yep. Seconded.
Okay, may I have a roll call?
Margot Mooring,
Can we repeat what we're voting on?
Sure. So my motion was this, that was seconded by Dean. Recommend approval with the condition that they remove the designee part of the city manager. I don't believe it should be city manager or their designee.
Would it not, and Christian, so recommend for approval, because I know we want to do it in the positive, right, on the, what we're voting. So recommend for approval with a amendment or a change, but we're doing a recommendation. Would we not want to do but we're not really recommending it for approval?
For recommending a change and approval. So I'm going with the same way we would put a condition on an application.
Right.
Do we need to vote it down and then say
This is
something
why?
else? Or I think we're allowed to put a recommendation forward to the city council, correct?
Yes. So in essence, your document, your statements are going to be a recommendation to council that they will consider as part of the evidence for the actual ordinance. So if you currently have a motion for approval that's been seconded on the table, you have a motion to amend that has been seconded but not voted on to add the two statements that you put in there, which I think the request for a briefing is certainly something that can be part of that recommendation. And then you either vote on the amendment.
Yeah, we have to vote on the amendment and then on the
Right. And then if the amendment passes, it would be part of that previous motion that has not been voted on. And you could vote that up or down. And once that's done, if that doesn't pass, you could make a motion to deny because of these reasons, if that's something that you wanted to do.
I'm confused as to how the point about appeals being
So,
an issue.
And Dean, correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think that issue, the concern from the Planning Commission, can be specifically called out as a request for a revisit in the first quarter of next year, because we have some concerns about the appeals process. Those are too broad right now to specifically say approve with these 12 caveats, right?
But it
So-
will specifically say appeals.
It will specifically say appeals in the request,
Okay.
which will be attached to our motion. Okay, is that correct, Dean?
It's correct, and I would even say it's broadly that is one example of an item that ought to be discussed in a little bit more detail and the implications of that discussed. That's my only point there. Not that we need to amend it specifically.
Okay, so right now I'm asking for a roll call on the motion to amend the original motion for approval. So this is, do you accept the removal of designee for a city manager and the request for a revisit in the first quarter of 2026 with the city attorney? May I have a roll call?
Justin Henderson,
Yes.
David Dahl,
Yes.
Margo Mooring,
Yes.
Dean Haddock,
No.
Nicholas Andrews.
Yes.
So you've passed
Okay.
the amendment, and
We
now
have passed the amendment. Now we have to vote on the original motion, which would now be to approve what we just said people want to add to our approval, which would be the two things again: removing the designee from city attorney and adding, city manager, removing designee from city manager, and then requesting to have a brief with the city attorney in the first quarter of 2026 with the intent of potentially changing the language in here.
That's what we just voted on.
No, this is now voting on the original amendment. We added the amendment to the original motion to approve. Now that amendment has been added. Now we're actually voting on if we're going to approve the motion.
Right now. If that next motion goes through, you're not approving anything except a visit with the city attorney.
No, we're approving this with the caveat of a recommendation to this is what we're voting on right now. We are voting on approving this as written minus the recommendation to remove the designee from the city manager and then adding in that recommendation a request for a briefing in the first quarter of 2026 with the city attorney with the potential of adding more changes. We can change the land development code if we need to.
After we're briefed, we'll know
Correct.
what we want.
So theoretically, we're voting not to approve it.
you're voting to approve with recommendation.
We're voting
recommended
right now. We're
amendments.
voting to approve with the accepted conditions.
Just like you would do a conditional use, you're recommending approval of the use, but they have to meet these conditions. That's what you're saying to council. We recommend approval of this item, but we want these things included in that final approval.
All right, is everybody clear?
Clear.
May I have a roll call?
I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Sorry to belabor this. The removal or the change around the designee is a specific requirement to remove the language around the designee. So it would be the city manager, and everywhere designee is in this document, it would be struck.
Correct.
Okay, thanks.
Have a roll call.
Margo Mooring,
Yes.
Justin Henderson,
No.
David Dahl,
Yes.
Dean Haddock,
No.
Nicholas Andrews.
Yes. All right. I don't know if I really want this. Can I have the planning department report?
In essence, we have no more meetings this year, so we will pick this
All
back
right.
up.
Well, I would, if before I look for a motion to adjourn, I'd like to recognize Margaret. This is Margaret Morgan's last meeting on the planning commission. I'm not sure if that's good that you're really
No.
excited. How many years have you been on the commission? 10 years. So, on behalf of somebody who hasn't even lived in Jacksonville Beach that long, I'm pushing it. Thank you, really, for this is not easy stuff to do, and we all do it on a voluntary basis. So 10 years of doing this, and actually putting up with me for at least the last 4 is noteworthy. So, thank you, really, I really appreciate it.
And a great friend of the number one institution here in this city, which is the Navy. A great friend of the
It's been my pleasure, but I would be lying if I wasn't, if I didn't say I'm dancing.
I mean, to be fair, you've handled some pretty tense issues in the last 4 years that I've been here, so earn your
Thanks for
time
bringing
off.
that up.
Yeah.
I'd like to say I remember them fondly, but not all of them.
I mean, some of them I don't know that they could have gone any other way, so you guys did the very best you could, and I think you were a good chair when you were chair, so I will miss you.
As will we all.
And please help yourself to hummus and
And
Keep
so,
it the
so we can
hummus.
get to the hummus and Sensi Geek, may I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
We are adjourned.